Hey, yo, Fro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. If you are a person who is on Facebook, check out the Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling fan group page. It's a great page, all sorts of podcasts, wrestling news, rumors, posts, memes, everything you could possibly want in the world of professional wrestling. And also for those people who are on Facebook, check out Wrestler Unstoppable, the video game. If you want to play a game and not have to drop $60 to $100 for a new edition every year, check out Wrestler Unstoppable. Completely free, customizable, turn-based game. Join a company, join a corporation, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, win championships, build a resume, and become a legend or a Hall of Famer. Very cool game on Facebook, Wrestler Unstoppable. If you would like to become a Patreon member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, shoot over to patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. We would love to have you as a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. This episode, we launched the fan voting for the second round of the WWE All-Time Intercontinental Champions Tournament. That tournament started last week. We kind of had the, I hate to say it this way because I don't like to take any credit away from anybody, but we had the lesser quality Intercontinental Champions go against each other to try to weed out some of the excess lacking wrestlers. And now we have a field of 64 remaining talents who are all relatively fantastic. There's a few that sneak through and get into the second round who I'm sure will get weeded out in the second round, but otherwise, you guys have put together a great tournament. And I say that like, you guys chose who the Intercontinental Champions are going to be all along. I know that's not the case, but some of the matches in the first round, if you guys really wanted to be strange and outside the box, you could have picked people that didn't deserve to be in the second round to move on, but thankfully, we have a fantastic, loyal fan base that loves to do fantasy booking. I love doing these tournaments with you guys. You guys get so into it. I get so many great comments and compliments. So thank you to those people about these tournaments. And the second round is live right now. So if you want to vote in the Fro Wrestling Intercontinental Championship Tournament, go to frowrestling.com and you'll see the tab there to vote right in the center of the page. By all means, click that. There are 4 voting blocks. All 64 matches are in those blocks, and cast your vote sooner rather than later. The voting will stay open until Wednesday night at 8:30, which is our typical cutoff point. And then for our Patreon members, each round, the new round launches on Thursday night for Patreon members, Saturday night for non-Patreon members. So if you want to get a jump on the voting, you want to see who made it through to the next round, what kind of great matches are going on in each round, you can do that if you become a Patreon member. And you don't have to be one of these people. I got people who I got a message this week from somebody who was like, I can't afford to put $50 a month into the Fro Wrestling Podcast. By all means, I would never want you to do that unless that's something you really, really could afford. If you want to be one of those people, just send $1 a month just to help the cause, help us get new equipment, get you some better interview opportunities. We would love to be a part of that. I apologize to those loyal followers who are on every single week at 9:05. I know we went live tonight at 11:05, and the reason for that was, and this is not part of what I had planned to talk about tonight, but just the way things worked out today. Tonight, in Quakertown, Pennsylvania, for those who know roughly the area that I'm in, I'm around Lansdale, Pennsylvania. It's just northwest of Philadelphia in a little town called Quakertown, Pennsylvania. There was a wrestling show by the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance, which is a small outfit out of Hatfield, Pennsylvania, where they put on local shows at farmers markets, flea markets, that kind of thing. And I got to this show. I have a student, those who know much about Mr. Fro, I am a teacher by trade, and one of my students' parents, small world as it would be, competes for Worldwide Wrestling Alliance and invited me to go to the show. And when I got there, obviously it's not WWE production level quality. It's not, but it does a good job of entertaining you. And the best part about the show, and my good friend of mine went with me tonight, we couldn't agree more on this, is that the ability to completely interact with the wrestlers themselves while they're performing is fantastic. It's not something you get to do when you go to a WWE show. You go to these shows, you're standing 5 feet from the people who are competing, and when that happens, you could shout things at them, say this crazy derogatory stuff. If you want to be a big time heckler, if you want to be supportive, you can get all kinds of great chants going, and it was fun. And tonight, at one point at the main event they had going on, the one guy told everybody in our section, like, get out of the way, move, and we all moved, and he threw a guy right through my whole section of seats, destroyed my seat, one of the seats next to me. Absolutely cool stuff. So if you are in my area, by all means, check out Worldwide Wrestling Alliance. They run shows at the Quakertown Farmers Market and Zern's Farmers Market, which is in Gilbertsville. Two very cool locations to go see independent wrestling. No major stars, with the exception, and for those people who have gone to frowrestling.com and know that that's the homepage of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, I put up a new picture tonight because I got to hang out and chit chat for a little while tonight with Robbie E from Impact Wrestling. I got to give him a whole earful about how much I really wish they'd put people like him on television more, instead of focusing so much of their energy on these big names they think they need to bring in from every other promotion. Let's face it, guys, Impact Wrestling has talent on their roster. They've been with them for years and years and years who've never gotten a break. Robbie E's he was their television champion when they had that belt for a while. He's been a 2-time tag team champion, various other accomplishments throughout his career, but he's never been a world champion, not even considered to be one. But he's like a homegrown talent. And to have him sitting there for all these years and not do anything more substantial, and I don't remember the last time we saw him on television, it's almost insulting to the sport, the sporting side of things. Robbie E's a talented young man. I had a great time talking to him tonight. He seemed very thankful that somebody was out there who really wanted to see more of him on television. And I do. I think he's a great talent. I think it's somebody that Impact Wrestling does not maximize their capabilities when they don't push some of these other people. So I just figured I'd shoot that out there. By all means, check that out if you get a chance. If you have never seen it before, do a YouTube search for WWWA, and then put in, matches or something like that, and you could see some of the matches they put out there. The guy I was there with, the parent of the student, was a guy by the name of Slim Whiskey. So if you do a YouTube search for Slim Whiskey versus, you'll see a couple matches pop up and see him in action, and it's pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to get to the topics that I had planned for the evening. I apologize for going off on a tangent there for a few minutes, but I felt it was necessary, considering we are going live a little bit late tonight for the second week in a row, but this was a cool night, being able to see some of these wrestlers up close and see how things go at one of their shows. So as we go through the show, feel free to call in to the Fro Wrestling Sound Off hotline at 267-642-1160. Give us your questions, your comments, your concerns, anything you want us to cover in the podcast. Remember, my show, I understand that I put together a run sheet every episode and I try to talk about whatever topics are important and what's going on in the world of wrestling. But at the same time, I really want my listeners to be as much a part of the show as they possibly can be. Look, I've been listening to several other podcasts lately, just to, I'll be honest, just to see what the competition's doing. And there's some great shows out there. And the one thing that I think some of them missed the boat on is getting you guys into the show. We have a guy who tunes in every week. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first week that he misses, because we are going on kind of late. But we got a guy named Barry Harry Larry who's been sending me messages every week. He's always got something to say, always has a question to ask. And I'm thrilled because it tells me there's somebody who finds what I do entertaining and worthy of tuning into. And for anybody listening to this podcast episode, thank you so much. Because, I'm not in this to be rich and famous. I'm not What Culture. I'm not Wrestle Talk News. I'm in this to entertain people. I am a huge wrestling fan. I know a lot of you are huge wrestling fans. And if taking my passion for wrestling and putting into a podcast and bringing you guys some entertainment gives you even a little tiny bit of a bump to your day, then I've done what I set out for. I'm not looking for you guys to, funnel me millions of dollars and be rich on pro wrestling. It's not my thing. I'm here to make sure you're having a good time with the sport and the profession that I think is fantastic, thoroughly entertaining, and has filled my life with so much pleasure. So, that being said, I want to get started. Don't forget the fan voting is live. Go to frowrestling.com, or if you want to skip right over my homepage, go to frowrestling.com/fanvote, and that's where you'll find the actual links. For the voting blocks for the Intercontinental Tournament. I'm going to get started with the news itself because there is a lot of stuff to cover. We're heading into a WWE pay-per-view weekend. There are a ton of matches to talk about. There's a lot of news to discuss. So we'll get into that. I'm going to start with this week's news and rumors. First off, Magnus. For those people who have been long-term TNA Impact Wrestling fans, Magnus was a talent who came to Impact Wrestling, did a really nice job as a mid-card talent. And when they went into the time period where AJ Styles was contemplating leaving the company, which inevitably he would end up leaving the company, going to New Japan, when that was all going on, the company chose to elevate Magnus to being world champion. And to what is my surprise, delight, and pleasure, Magnus, for me personally, did a great job. The issue I have is as soon as some of the booking and managerial changes started taking place, I want to say in 2014 into early 2015, they took the championship off of Magnus, and then he kind of got thrown by the wayside, and he ended up leaving Impact Wrestling. And then when Jeff Jarrett opened up Global Force Wrestling, he was the first talent that Jeff Jarrett brought in, and they made him the world champion in GFW. That's why when GFW and Impact Wrestling started their merger this year, Magnus showed up as GFW champion. They quickly transitioned the title off of him into Alberto El Patron, which I understand you're trying to push a guy like Patron who's got major brand name recognition, but I hope people don't forget something. And I said this tonight to Robbie E, and I appreciated that he thought I had a good perspective on this. Impact Wrestling is not WWE. They never will be WWE. And the one thing that made Impact Wrestling really fantastic and amazing is homegrown talent. Okay, Magnus was a homegrown talent. You don't bury a homegrown talent for a guy you brought in from another company who is now in big trouble. You know, you bring Magnus in and you put him in a position where his character can grow. He becomes a legitimate world champion level competitor. Well, they missed the boat because Magnus now has no contract with Impact Wrestling. It was a handshake deal when he came in and dropped the GFW title, and now he is gone from Impact Wrestling. What I find thoroughly exciting about this is the fact that Magnus is in real life married to Mickie James, who, as you know, is in WWE on the Raw brand. I am dying for Magnus to come to WWE. I think he would contribute in a great way because they may actually find a useful way to use him. He's talented in the ring. He's got enough power and strength, but enough technical ability that he really can be an all-around wrestler. And I hope they take the opportunity to really go for that because he's somebody who I think would bolster their roster even more than it already is. I know the roster's deep right now, but he would be a great addition. In conversations about Global Force Wrestling this week, that he was not the only topic of discussion. The other discussion when it comes to contracts is free agents, and that it brings me to Rey Mysterio. So Global Force Wrestling and WWE are both making an effort to sign Rey Mysterio. Now, there were comments online this week from Conan talking about how Rey Mysterio did have preliminary conversations with GFW. He said he's very certain that WWE is interested in bringing Rey in and bringing him back to the company. And we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast episode. The issue is he has now got a contract in hand offer from Global Force Wrestling, according to various media outlets. And so it's really in WWE's court. If they're going to make an offer, they better move on signing him soon, because if not, he's not going to sit around and wait forever. WWE offers so much more of an opportunity for his son to become a professional wrestler, for merchandising and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that really, kind of rubbed me the wrong way this week was that GFW has announced that now part of the talent contracts that they are offering people requires 10% of whatever Global Force Wrestling talent makes when they're not wrestling for Global Force Wrestling. So tonight I went to the Quakertown Farmers Market in the middle of nowhere, and I get to see Robbie E perform. 10% of his money is going to go to GFW. What did he make for showing up at a little farmer's market? $100, $200? He's got to give them 20 of it? Why? What did they do? They didn't even book him. He booked himself. So thoroughly frustrating, because I think that's going to encourage talent not to sign with them. Now, the upside is they'll encourage people to sign with places like Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, AAA, Lucha Underground, that kind of stuff, which can only help those brands, which I think they're doing a better job right now. I don't know if this is a Jeff Jarrett directive or if this is a Nordholm directive, Anthem Energy, or whatever they are anymore, Anthem Incorporated. I said Anthem Energy. I'm still stuck back on the Dixie Carter days with Panda Energy. But you know what I'm saying. Like, whoever's making that decision needs to get in touch with the wrestling world, because the wrestling world does not go around and about based on, the wrestlers relying on the company anymore. WWE is the big dog, and if you're not in WWE, there are plenty of other places to go. Nobody has been more a symbol of that this last year than Cody Rhodes, who has made it everywhere he's gone. So they better be careful, because they have an opportunity here to really grow their fan base. They've had some decent ratings, comparatively speaking, to prior to this current management taking over in the last few weeks. But you've got to foster that and keep it going. And I'm concerned that the way they're doing contract negotiations right now, that could be an issue. We have a WWE star preparing for return from injury. So it's been quite a while since we've seen Darren Young, but Darren Young is very close to an in-ring return. Remember, he went out with an elbow injury. He's been out, I want to say, the better part of 9 months, getting ready to return. I'll be curious to see what they do with him, considering when he left, he was just getting over yet another feud with Titus, but now Titus has the Titus brand worldwide, This would be an opportunity for Titus O'Neil to bring in another talent, somebody he has a history with, lend some long-term feel nostalgia in a way to the Titus brand, and do something interesting with Darren Young, who I think has been underutilized for years as well. Want to update you guys on what's going on with Alberto El Patron and Paige. So Alberto has been cleared. There are no charges going to be filed against Alberto El Patron. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think Global Force Wrestling will be insane, and I do mean that, if they don't lift the suspension of Alberto El Patron. Because he has issues with his girlfriend, does not in any way allow somebody to take away his right to employment when she's the one who's the Looney Tune in this situation. Now, I'm not trying to be mean to Paige. All she did was throw a drink on her boyfriend, and somebody had to make a big deal about this, but now they're saying Paige may be indicted on charges, which is absolutely ridiculous. They had an argument. She threw a drink on him. They stormed out of a restaurant. Let it go. All right. I've had arguments with plenty of people in my lifetime resulting in getting some water or a soda splashed in my face. It is not a big deal. Let it go. This is not jailable stuff. Stop giving Paige a hard time. Stop giving Alberto El Patron a hard time. They had an argument. And they're back together, obviously, and happy once again, at least for today. So move on. The issue I have here is WWE. If she is brought up on charges, then they would have the right, based on a clause in her contract related to public relations and things like that, to actually fire her without owing her the remainder of her contract. That would be an issue for her, because I think, they've been paying her downside guarantee for the last year, with the exception of the time she's been suspended. They've been paying her downside guarantee. Ever since she's been injured, they have to pay her. And she's got a contract that runs, I want to say, through 2019. So it would be nice for WWE to figure this out. And I'm just saying, I'd bring her back to the company. I really would. I'd make every effort to find a way to mend those fences and bring her back. She really could bolster the women's division. But as of right now, it is official. Alberto El Patron will not be charged with anything in regards to the domestic violence situation that was popped up and reported between he and Paige. Eric Bischoff in the news this week on his podcast, speaking about the cancellation of Talking Smack. Now, a lot of people have been frustrated with this cancellation. I'm one of them as well. And he had interesting comments. He is very much critical of them for canceling the show, and I agree with him completely. And one of the reasons he said that is because, much like the successes of Nitro, when Nitro is at its peak, its pinnacle of success, a big thing that they've discovered from doing market research is that people like spontaneity. They like things that are unpredictable. And one of the things about Talking Smack is you got that feel. Same thing with Raw Talk. You got the feeling that at any time something fantastic, unexpected, and completely unscripted could happen. And that made it so that people wanted to tune in. And now it's watered down. It's not the same thing. If you take that show away, it's too much scripting. Vince Russo said the same thing. So did Jim Cornette. Not that those two have anything in common, but they both agree on the same thing, that there's too much scripted stuff right now. And people are kind of tired of it. It gets boring. You don't want to watch it. The angles and storylines are way too predictable. And it's time to have something a little more realistic and reality based, and this was it. And now they take it away. Now the word is Vince McMahon's the one who made the decision, and then later in the week it was reported that the reason he made the decision is he got angry that the New Day's appearance on Talking Smack came out before they actually made their in-ring return on SmackDown, and that by them being on Talking Smack it kind of ruined their return. I get that. I actually understand that, especially from his perspective. But what he's missing is, by them being on Talking Smack before they return to the ring, it kind of got around a lot of the smart marks. It got around a lot of the internet conversation, internet feeds, and it made it more 2017. This is not 1985. Kayfabe is dead. People know wrestling's fake. It's not real. I shouldn't say it's fake. It's a scripted athletic demonstration that is extraordinarily physical. However, it is predetermined. People know that. Heck, we complain about it on this podcast all the time, how we all know just by looking at pay-per-views and knowing long-term booking plans already because they get leaked online all the time, we know who's going to win most matches. Heck, when I do my predictions later, a lot of it's going to be based on what we anticipate in the future already based on what we've seen in the various media outlets. So Vince has got to get a clue. Like, fans are sick and tired of being treated like they're not intelligent enough to know what's really going on. We all know what's going on. You know, it's like a dog and pony show. Just let the fans be excited about something to do with your product. And right now, they're not. They're bored out of their gourd. So he's really got to rethink this. I think it's a horrible decision for him to take that away. I think it's just not good from top to bottom. I want to get into a couple of these Intercontinental matches for those who are tuning in now. The Intercontinental Tournament, you guys did a great job in the opening round. Round 2 is launched and live right now at frowrestling.com. First match I want to talk about in the second round, Bret Hart versus Rob Van Dam. What an incredible match, one that we never got to see, never will get to see, but one that I think every true wrestling fan would love to see. I'm not going to go through every match in the second round because obviously there's 64 talents, 32 matches. It just would take too long. We're already a half hour into the program and I got a ton more content to cover, but I do want to spotlight some of the real marquee matches, and Bret Hart vs. Rob Van Dam is a main event on any pay-per-view. The technical savvy of these two guys, the aerial abilities, and you combine a little bit of power. Bret Hart was able to throw down when he needed to throw down. He could slug it out with the best of them, The Undertaker, the Stone Colds, and things like that, Sid, whoever. So very interesting pairing, courtesy of the way you guys voted in the previous round. The next one I want to talk about, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat takes on Eddie Guerrero. You couldn't ask for two more technically qualified and gifted wrestlers to be matched up in the Intercontinental Championship Tournament, and that is just fantastic, and I love it. And I've said this in other tournaments, I don't care who you guys pick, but I don't know how you pick that match. Ricky Steamboat as the Intercontinental Champion, 1987, right after he took the title from Randy Savage, versus Eddie Guerrero, who held a few runs throughout the late 90s into the 2000s up to his untimely passing. And both of them were fantastic champions. So good luck with that voting. I don't really know where you're going to go. I don't know where you're going to go with Bret Hart, Rob Van Dam. You can go either direction there. Another one I want to get to, the Honky Tonk Man. The longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, and the singer-songwriter guy, character he portrayed. And I'm only bringing this one up for this purpose, this great segue, going against Double J, Jeff Jarrett, the other singer-songwriter supposed character that they had. What a goofy second-round match, but one that I'm actually interested to see how you guys pick, because you could either go with the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, or you could go with the guy that a lot of wrestling fans are not big supporters of, which is kind of a shame, but Jeff Jarrett's actually a really talented performer, great storyteller in the ring. He just kept bouncing around too much and never really made any places home, and he kind of burned a lot of bridges. So we'll have to see how you guys pick that one. And the next one, Chris Benoit takes on Dolph Ziggler. I know people like Chris Benoit's the taboo. Don't talk about Chris Benoit. I'm not that guy. Look, he did what he did. It's horrible. It's horrific. But this is a fantasy wrestling booking situation. It has nothing to do with what he did. It's not disparaging to those victims, who lost their lives in that situation. It's nothing like that. We're simply talking about wrestling history, and I'm curious to see where you guys go with it. But again, technical matchup would be phenomenal. Dolph Ziggler can go with the best of them. I'd be really curious to see who you guys pick in that matchup. The next one, Davey Boy Smith versus Dean Ambrose. Wow, what a contrast of styles. The modern day Intercontinental talent like Dean Ambrose going against like this classic, incredibly talented technical wrestler, Davey Boy Smith, but whose title reign was relatively short. Very short, if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things. There's two back-to-back just enjoyable matches. I got Goldust going against Cody Rhodes and Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, going against Curtis Axel. I'm not even going to discuss those any further. You could tell just from hearing them that they are more humor than anything. Here's another great, fantastic technical one. Owen Hart versus Lance Storm. A match that I'm sure somewhere probably took place, but I've never seen. John Morrison taking on Tito Santana. Believe it or not, Chyna made it through the first round. She defeated the Mountie. That tells you how people feel about the Mountie. Chyna will go against Razor Ramon. We've got Pat Patterson, the original Intercontinental Champion, the first champion ever, taking on Macho Man Randy Savage. We've got Steve Austin versus Booker T. Ric Flair, remember, he held the Intercontinental Championship later in his career. So remember, that's the Ric Flair we're talking about. We're not talking about NWA World Champion Ric Flair. The older Ric Flair as Intercontinental Champion taking on Christian. We've got a match that I would have loved to have seen, never happened, would have loved to have seen it one time in the ring, a legitimate throwdown between Edge and Wade Barrett. Very cool matchup. We've got Shawn Michaels versus Shelton Benjamin, which I actually am looking forward to see because I think, to me, it seems pretty obvious where you guys are going to vote, but I would love to have seen the actual match. And then these last two are my favorite matches in the round. I'm saying that up front. I'm just being honest. It's because I think the styles would be so amazing to see. So the first one, Randy Orton taking on Ravishing Rick Rude. Wow. What a match. Thank you guys for picking people that led to that match happening, because that's phenomenal. And this one blows my mind too. The Ultimate Warrior taking on Umaga. You couldn't ask for a more bizarre, out of nowhere type of match. I'm really excited to see where you guys vote with those matches. I'm going to get back to some more of the news because we got a lot of news still to cover and we were about halfway through the show at this point. Brie Bella made it very clear she is training for her return to the ring. She gave birth earlier this year to her and Daniel Bryan's child. Nikki Bella is as well, but she apparently is having serious neck problems stemming from her fusion that apparently her fusion surgery did not take. So now she's having neck issues and she is hoping to return to the ring in 2018. I'm not sure how soon Brie Bella will be back in the ring, but she is definitely very serious about making a return. Something I found to be phenomenally just unique this week is they announced that there's going to be a training camp being held at Harley Race's facility. Harley Race's facility is known for producing some of the best talent in North America, and they always bring in guest speakers to run different seminars, different types of training, and also companies that come in to do those trainings, they're always looking for talent. Well, apparently this year at the Harley Race training camp, representatives from Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and World Wrestling Entertainment will be there all at the same time over the course of this training session. And it's very interesting to see that those three companies will all be represented at the same time. I would love to see Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground send people at the same time too. Just to have all the big ones here in the United States all in one spot at the same time. On a topic of that, by the way, I want to send a special thank you. There is a Podcaster Central group that I created on Facebook, and one of my contributors to that group posts reports on Progress Wrestling in the United Kingdom. I told him, and I really wanted to do this, I wanted to send a special thank you to him for giving us great coverage on Progress Wrestling. It's something that American fans don't get enough of an opportunity to hear about and see, and I'm hoping that having him on the Podcast Central channel that I created on Facebook will give people something to Google, something to YouTube search, and come up with some really amazing wrestling that they don't get to see anywhere else. As you guys know, last episode I talked about the What Culture Pro Wrestling World Cup that's coming up. That's going to be fantastic because you're bringing people from all over the world to one tournament, but there are more promotions than you can ever possibly dream of that people just don't hear about. So I hope you get to check some of those out. I want to talk about Kurt Angle and his in-ring return plans. Kurt Angle, as of right now, it is looking less and less likely that they are looking forward to do anything with him in the ring anytime soon. They made it very clear that there is no plan in the foreseeable future for Kurt Angle to return to the ring. The Jason Jordan angle will probably draw out for a significant period of time. He's apparently scheduled to have a solid mid-card push. I'm sure Kurt Angle will be a part of that. I'm sure at some point Kurt Angle will probably get canned as the general manager, and then potentially there's an opportunity for some kind of match of sorts. But at least for now, it looks like Kurt Angle will remain the Raw GM and not an in-ring competitor. Contrary to reports that had Kurt Angle going against Triple H at SummerSlam, I don't think that's going to happen at this point, unless they fast-track something to make that happen, but I really don't see that being in the immediate plans. Somebody was asking, and several sites have reported on why AJ Styles won the U.S. Championship at Madison Square Garden. And there's been a lot of contemplation about why would they do that at a house show. Well, first off, it's not your typical house show. Talking about Madison Square Garden, for God's sake. It's in one of the holiest grails of wrestling in the world. So it's not just a house show, okay? So that's the first thing. Second off, they were talking about how Kevin Owens was the new face of America, and this in a way, and it's an un-American character. At the same time that you've got Jinder Mahal as the WWE champion, and you also have Rusev running his Bulgarian mouth and waving that flag going against John Cena in a flag match. You can only have so many anti-American characters at once. When you start to add more and more, it complicates the issue and makes it so it's not as authentic, it's not as genuine, and that's a real problem. So this was a way to get one of those anti-American characters out of the title picture and put the title on somebody who is very much the opposite of that. AJ Styles, obviously, he's playing the babyface now, and it kind of gives the good guys one over on the anti-Americans. So that apparently has a big part to do with why that happened. There's some Johnny Mundo or Johnny Nitro or John Morrison news this week that he will be making his debut for Impact Wrestling shortly as a member of Lucha Underground and Triple A's promotion, and that partnership that the companies have had with each other. Johnny Mundo is now available to be put and will be put on shows being recorded in August for Impact Wrestling, and that is somebody who should be fans around the world should be thrilled to see him show up on Impact Wrestling. If you are a fan of Impact Wrestling, or if you have the hope and aspiration that they turn into something of substance in the near future, you want to see a talent like Johnny Mundo show up there. He brings legitimacy, experience. He's a former WWE guy who has a great reputation. And when you talk to fans about his quality of work, he's one of the more well-respected people in the wrestling business today. So it's not like you're talking about some mid-card guy who happens to show up on Impact Wrestling. No, this is somebody who fans genuinely appreciate. So I think him going to there would actually be a good thing. One of the biggest stories of the week, one that I have to get to, is Shane McMahon and his helicopter incident. For those who don't know, Shane McMahon this week was going to visit relatives in Long Island, and on the way there was some sort of mechanical malfunction in his helicopter, and they were forced to make a crash landing in the Atlantic Ocean. The Coast Guard responded. Shane McMahon is fine. His pilot is fine. But scary situation. It was funny. I saw an interview with Alex Riley, former WWE superstar and commentator, who is now working with the Glow promotion and that show that they're running on Netflix. And he apparently got to know Shane McMahon pretty well personally, and was saying that, if push came to shove, Shane's that kind of guy. He'll just jump out of the helicopter. He's not afraid of pretty much anything. The guy's insane. So, I think Shane was in good hands one way or another. If he thought he needed to take a jump, I think he would have. But thankfully, Shane McMahon is fine, and thankfully his co-pilot, or his pilot, is fine as well. And congratulations to them on being safe and sound back at home. Brock Lesnar. One of the biggest stories of the week. Brock Lesnar and the speculation. Has he or hasn't he re-entered the US ADA anti-doping protocol? He served with a 1-year suspension after his fight with Mark Hunt and failing 2 drug screenings. And so he entering the screening process would do 2 things. One, it will allow him to finish out his 1-year suspension. That suspension sits there forever if you don't actually go into testing protocol. So him going back into testing protocol makes it so that suspension could go away, and more importantly, it opens up an opportunity if he wanted to return to the octagon, he could do that. Well, then speculation came out that he's already, he was on his way back. Somebody said he could be fighting as early as November 1st, which turned out to be not true. The earliest he could fight would be December, based on the timing of when he would have entered the testing protocol and when his 1-year suspension would be up. Well, now other people are saying that Brock Lesnar, his contract, for those who don't know, runs out right after WrestleMania. in 2018. And so now the thought process is that Brock Lesnar is thinking of leaving WWE at the end of this contract, which would run out right after Mania, and go back to UFC or go into a different venue altogether. Well, other sites, Cage Side Seats in particular, I'll cite Cage Side Seats for most of this Brock conversation because they've been all over it. We're discussing the fact that WWE's contract with Brock Lesnar stipulates that there's another... if you think of it in terms of like baseball, football, there's an option year they could kick in. The only way that option doesn't kick in is if either party makes known to the other party their intention to not return or to not rehire. So Brock Lesnar would have to go to WWE and let them know ahead of time that he's not coming back to the company. If he does not do that, then his extra year of contract would kick in right at the end of his current contract running through 2018. It would take him all the way to 2019. Look, for the number of dates that Brock Lesnar appears and the amount of work that he actually does, his work rate is very low. He's getting paid like $5 to $6 million a year. Now, don't get me wrong. When you got a multi-billion dollar corporation like WWE, they can afford to pay him whatever the hell they want to. But the issue is what does that do to wrestling fans? You have this premium talent if WWE just lets him walk away again. This is not the first time he's talked about leaving the company. It's not the first time that, other ventures have presented themselves. I know he's contemplated fighting again. More power to him if he wants to do that. I just don't really want to see the guy leave WWE just yet. And speaking of people I don't want to see, but this one, unfortunately, is definitely going to leave. Mark Henry was recently on an episode of Table for Three where he made it very clear his in-ring performer contract is due up in a couple months. And when it does, he will be leaving active in-ring competition. He will be retiring from wrestling, and he will transition into a backstage role where he'll be involved in both training and in identifying and bringing in talent, which I actually think would be fantastic for Mark Henry. So kind of sad. He's been in wrestling for 21 years. He debuted 21 years ago. He's been a solid competitor, former world heavyweight champion, ECW champion. He's done quite a few things. And clearly, in my opinion, just my opinion, if you got somebody like The Godfather, Coco Beware, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, those kinds of people in the WWE Hall of Fame, then Mark Henry deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So I expect that he will get that sooner rather than later. But it does look like Mark Henry's career is winding to an end in the next couple months. Former Ring of Honor star is WWE bound. That is the word on the internet scene. And that former Ring of Honor star is Donovan Dijak, who has been a free agent for several months now. And it was talked about way back when, even on this podcast, that WWE had a lot of interest in signing him, but they held off for a little while because people started to think that WWE would negotiate with talents before he was legally allowed to. And that would be an issue. WWE has to wait for no-compete clauses to expire before they can approach talent, and people were suspecting that didn't happen. So it'll be interesting to see how many other talents. I know Leo Rush is on his way to WWE. He should be reporting to the Performance Center soon. So they're definitely targeting talents that used to be in Ring of Honor. It'll be curious to see how many of them they pick up, because let's be serious. If WWE keeps signing talent like this, NXT is going to be a brand in and of itself. It's not even going to need to be promoted people to the main roster, because its roster is going to be as deep, if not deeper, than the main roster. So, this acquisition mode, it seems like Vince is in. I think a big chunk of it is probably driven by William Regal and Triple H. But I think they're all good pickups for WWE. Interesting line put out there during an interview with Jinder Mahal this week, who made it clear that at some point there will be a 3MB reunion. I'm sure it'll be a 5-minute segment on Raw or SmackDown. He'll probably come out. They'll probably have a moment where Drew Galloway is like the NXT champion, come out with the WWE champion, and then you'll have, Heath Slater will be the one who interrupts the two of them. I could see that happening maybe next year at the brand split or the next brand split. Have Drew Galloway win the NXT championship at TakeOver Brooklyn, and have another brand split. There was a rumor there was going to be one right after SummerSlam. So if they do that, can't you just see Galloway and Mahal in the ring face to face, NXT champion, WWE champion, and then have Heath Slater come out and annoy both of them? But I love that I saw that he said that may happen. I would actually be very excited to see that happen. Not that I was ever a big fan of 3MB, but I love that they would give them an opportunity to do something memorable and unique in that situation. And then, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about Battleground. That is our main topic to close out the show. There's two things we're going to do. First off, I'm going to give you the betting odds. What is Las Vegas and other betting formats? Who do they feel is going to win the various matches at Battleground? In addition, as we go through them, I will give you my predictions on who I think is going to win. And as I say that, let me back up for just a moment. I apologize. I got all that out there. Don't forget what I say, because that's what we're going to do. But I don't want to forget, somebody sent me a question this week, and I apologize. I cannot remember who the name is. Maybe A.N.T. Cardi, but that name is ringing a bell. Someone was asking about the G1 Climax, which launched this week, and they are 4 days into it. And look, I don't want to go through every match that's taken place, but I will give you updated standings on the G1 Climax. As of right now, for Block B, Kazuchika Okada has 4 points. Kenny Omega has 4 points. They are both leading in that block, which let's just assume that it ended today. That would put Okada and Omega in the championship match to determine who would go on to the G1 Climax final. Tamatanga, Minoru Suzuki, Sanada, Toru Yano, Evil, and Juice Robinson all have 2 points, with Satoshi Kojima and Michael Elgin having no points after the first 4 nights of competition. That is all the Block B results thus far. As far as Block A is concerned, I do not have those readily available. I'm waiting till tomorrow morning where I'll get the Day 5 results and see where everybody stands. But the G1 Climax already off to a great start. Tetsuya Naito apparently has been just tearing the house down. Juice Robinson, Kazuchika Okada came out and gave one of the biggest compliments you can ask for. He said that the future in New Japan Pro Wrestling is Juice Robinson. What an incredible endorsement to get from the most powerful talent in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So let's get into that Battleground conversation. We're going to start with one of the matches that I really wish wasn't happening on the card, but John Cena in a flag match taking on Rusev. So right now, John Cena is the minus 1,000 favorite. What that means is you would have to place a $1,000 bet on John Cena just to win $100, because he's such a, he's a big favorite to beat Rusev. Rusev is a plus 500 underdog. So if you bet $100 on Rusev, you could win 500. Okay, so the reality for me, though, is, and here's where my predictions come in. John Cena getting pinned by Rusev, that would not happen, because Cena is, the free agent who could float brands, and I think they're doing that to allow him to have dream matches on both shows, since he's in the twilight of his career, according to him earlier this week, where he said he knows his years are winding down, which is hard to hear from a 40-year-old guy when you're 40 yourself. That's me. But his time is winding down, so I think that's why they did the free agent angle, but I could easily see Rusev winning the flag match by waving the Bulgarian flag, and that way John Cena doesn't have to have a pinfall loss, but he could help elevate Rusev into a better position. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's something I can easily see happening. But my prediction for this match, so I've looked at all the different sites, I've looked at all the news, and my prediction is, John Cena is going to win the match. I think I'm relatively confident John Cena is going to win the flag match because he's defending America's honor and all that kind of nonsense. However, I do expect after the match for Rusev to go off and beat him up and leave him draped in a flag or whatever, or something like that. We're going to move on to the next match on the card, and look, some of them are just the most ridiculous, stupid matches. I don't even know why they're on the card. Aiden English is a plus 150 underdog to Ty Dillinger. Well, at least Ty Dillinger's getting on the show. I'm sure that'll be on the kickoff show, because no one cares about Aiden English, and people are starting to not care about Ty Dillinger because they've totally wasted his debut on the show. He hasn't been on the show in forever. He only gets these dark matches and meaningless matches on the main event and whatnot, but I'm sure he'll win this one. Shinsuke Nakamura is the minus 250 favorite to defeat Baron Corbin. I buy that. You know why? Because there's like a pattern. For a long-time wrestling fans, the Money in the Bank winner loses his next couple matches after winning Money in the Bank simply because he can afford to, because by having the briefcase, he can be world champion material anytime he wants, and this way Shinsuke Nakamura can remain strong, not taking a pinfall loss, make himself a legitimate threat to a title shot, while Baron Corbin always has a title shot. The Fatal 5-Way for the Women's Championship #1 contender. By the way, my prediction for the Ty Dillinger match, Ty Dillinger, the one for Shinsuke Nakamura, Baron Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura. And so far, I'm all with the odds makers. The Fatal 5-Way for the SmackDown Women's Championship. They're all considered underdogs. It's just how much of an underdog, if that makes any sense. So Charlotte's a plus 120, Lana's a plus 200, Becky Lynch a plus 230, Tamina's a plus 350, and Natalya's a plus 1,000. That makes Natalya the longest chance bet of all of them. However, I don't think Charlotte's going to win. Even though she's the favorite to win, I don't think she will win. Instead, I actually think we may see Tamina Snuka finally get a quality win. I would not be surprised to see her, set Lana up for the win and then pull the win away from her or something of that nature. If Tamina doesn't win, it's going to be Lana. That's just my opinion. I think for whatever reason, they're really trying to cram Lana down your throat, and it's driving me nuts. But that's my prediction. You know what? I'm gonna change a little bit. I'm just gonna say I'm firmly gonna go with Lana. I think Lana wins the match. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship, the Usos are a plus 163 underdog to the New Day. And I will tell you, I think the New Day will win the match, but not the titles. I think the New Day will get another stupid finish, count out disqualification or something, and the Usos will retain. Now, if I was booking this from a WWE standpoint, I would do that, but then I would have Shane McMahon, because he did have that plane, helicopter, whatever situation this week, I would have him come out and I would have him restart the match, and then I would actually give the Usos a win. But I don't know how the odds makers would look at that. So I do think the New Day will win, but it will be a schmaz ending. I think the Usos walk out as the tag team champions. For the United States Championship, a rematch, Kevin Owens challenging AJ Styles for the exact same reason that I said earlier tonight. AJ Styles is a minus 300 favorite over Kevin Owens, who's a plus 188. And for me, I don't see any chance that Kevin Owens regains the title because, like we said earlier, they can't have too many people in that anti-American mode winning the matches because it sends a common theme across all talents, and then the whole show gets boring. I think AJ Styles retains. I think it'll be a great match, probably match of the night, but should be good to watch. And in the main event, the WWE Championship in a Punjabi prison match. The champion, Jinder Mahal, is a minus 333. Randy Orton is a plus 220. This is a tough one for me. I know everybody in the world wants to say Jinder Mahal retains because he has to take on John Cena. I see that too. But the odds are so close that I really think Randy Orton has a shot. The reality is, my prediction, Jinder Mahal retains. So if you're keeping score, the only match that I go against the odds makers is the Fatal 5-Way for the SmackDown Women's Championship #1 contender. I think that will be Lana. What I think would be really cool to do would be for Lana to win, Tamina to support her, for her to get on the mic and call out Naomi. Have Naomi come to the ring. Her and Lana could exchange words. Tamina could super kick her in the face and lay her out, beat her down. And then she and Lana could walk out of the ring. And then Carmella could cash in her Money in the Bank right there and take the championship. Thereby getting Naomi out of the title picture, giving the championship to Carmella, and starting something between Carmella and potentially Lana and Tamina. Have to wait and see. It's just the way I would book it if I was booking WWE right now. Now, of course, they always know better than me, so we'll have to see how they book it. But that's what I would do if I was booking this stuff right now. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'll be all ears to hear if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or anything of that nature. I'm going to apologize. We didn't have any questions or comments that came up while this episode has been playing. I would surmise that that's because we didn't go live until 11:05 tonight. I didn't even get a chance to hear from my buddy Barry Harry Larry, who's probably mad at me at home somewhere because he didn't get a chance to get on, or I didn't get a chance to get on at 9:05. He is one of my most loyal followers. So Barry, Harry, Larry, I genuinely apologize if I was not able to have you on tonight just because of the timing. But by all means, check back in with me next week. I would love to hear from you. If you want to send me questions, comments, concerns throughout the week, the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line is 267-642-1160. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you want to hear from us. We'll be more than happy to address whatever questions you have and make sure that your thoughts get into the show. Our big push right now is on our Patreon membership, patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. We're still searching for our number one Patreon. If there's anybody out there who'd like to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family, we would love to have you. By all means, pop on there. Click away. It's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us the next episode where we run down all the results from the pay-per-view Battleground here in Philadelphia. I'm going to see about maybe going down to the Marriott Hotel and hanging with some of the wrestlers after the show. Special thanks as always out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects that were used in today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the tab in the mid-center of the page. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Be sure to shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com if you are headed to college, a university, you just want to change career paths or professions. That's what we do here at Fro Life Planning. We want to help you make those transitions, make those decisions, and get you set up for the best position you can be in and be successful. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for wrestling news and rumors, go to thesportsjunkies101.com or tsjsports.com/WWE for our latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until next episode, everybody, take care and have a great night.